What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Havoc Sports Podcast. An exciting episode today, episode 36. We are doing our Havoc Mock Draft 1.0.
1.0, no trades. That we want to make that very clear. We don't have any trades in the 1.0 mock here. Maybe probably we'll start with trades maybe 2.0 or 3.0.
Yeah.
What do you think? 3.0?
Yeah, probably 3.0 because that'll be probably our finish.
Yeah, we'll do
product.
the 2.0 after the probably the draft combine.
Yeah, and I want people to know, like, going into this, a lot of the players we're learning about. Like we said, this is our 1.0. We looked and did the best research we could for 1.0, but as we get more in depth, we're going to learn more about these players.
Yeah.
So if you don't like our pick in Mock Draft 1, we're sorry. We're doing our research. We're going to learn more about the players, and things will improve. But, again, this is just our very first mock draft. I took the odds, and Harry went ahead and did the evens. So we'll kind of alternate back and forth, but also give our input. And some of these are straightforward, so there's not going to be a lot of input.
Yeah, 100%. And like we said, there's some of these players that we think fit that teams need now, but we don't really know much about the player. We just know that talent-wise they're there.
Yep.
So let's start it out with Cam.
Let's do it. Cam Ward, yeah, Tennessee Titans. Will Levis.
I was about to say Cam Newton. Hey,
I mean, he kind of plays like it.
Yeah.
He's a beast. It's not a high-end quarterback class.
No.
But when you're in the position to take a quarterback at pick 1, it's very rarely. You turn it down. We were discussing ideas before the podcast, but on this mock draft, Cam Ward, number 1. He's the best quarterback out of the group, and I think by a pretty good amount, in my opinion.
Yep.
May not be the best player available, but with Will Levis and his struggles, I don't know that the fans or the coaching staff is going to want him around.
Right.
So Cam Ward's pick 1.
And they got a new GM as well.
Yep.
So probably going to look to get his own players, probably starting with the quarterback position. Number 2, with the Browns, I think the Browns, with the recent news of Myles Garrett going out of town, if they can draft this guy like Abdul Carter, it would be like,
perfect.
Wow.
It's
We didn't even lose anybody.
a 1 for 1.
Yeah. So I got the Browns taking Abdul Carter. And he kind of speaks for himself if you've watched him in the college. I mean, he's Micah Parsons, and I'd almost say he is times 1.5 Micah Parsons. You know what I mean? Like, he's Micah Parsons times a little bit. He's got a little more finesse in his game besides the bull rush that Micah Parsons brings.
Yeah.
I think overall best talent in the draft by far.
I believe this is his first year fully at that position too. I mean, if he's doing that,
he's
in his first time,
and you can play him like he has versatility in his positions.
He's like a Michael Parsons.
Yep. I mean, he could play inside linebacker if you really wanted him to. He could play on the line. It just depends on where you want him on the defense and what kind of defensive coordinator you're running.
Yeah.
But yeah, Abdul Carter, best talent in the draft. Browns taking him at 2.
Yep. Pick 3, the Giants, and this is the only for sure I can say in the top 3 that will be taking a quarterback.
100%.
No questions asked. I have heard rumors of some people saying that Travis Hunter could go here instead of Shedeur because of the need, but I think this team needs a quarterback so bad. You're the Big Apple. You got that big pole, and Shedeur would fit in pretty well there. Big name, big city.
Yeah.
He's not bad. You got to get him in the right system. Got to get the right QB coach around him. There's some issues that I see in his game. Maybe not the most accurate, not the best deep ball, but not a bad quarterback compared to what you have right now.
Nope. And I think with the Giants, they messed up on their last quarterback. They are a quarterback needy team, but I do believe that there is some quarterbacks in the free agency that could be looking to be a starting quarterback. Fields, you got Russell Wilson testing free agency. You got a couple quarterbacks out there that could be on teams that are looking for quarterbacks. But so I'm thinking, like maybe the Titans or the Giants could, look into free agency as well for quarterbacks. But yeah, I think the Giants, if not they're definitely needing a quarterback. Drew Lock is not going to be your answer. Tommy DeVito is not going to be your answer. So, I think definitely the right pick there. At number 4, the Patriots, I got them taking, I think, at this point of the draft where we're at, the best talent in the draft right now, and that's Travis Hunter, who is a playmaker at both sides of the field. Just at wide receiver, he had 96 receptions and 1,258 yards. So he is and that's not even, he's locking down your best wide receiver on the defensive side as well.
Yeah.
So I think, having a big name like that in the New England with a confident quarterback, it could really spark something over there in New England and bring back that, defensive with a offensive playmaker only mindset.
And I think Travis Hunter is mainly going to the combine with corners.
Yeah.
But where Travis Hunter excels as a receiver is in the red zone. So if he was to come to New England, I think you would see him primarily corner, but when in the red zone, I think that's when you would start to see Travis Hunter come out.
Yep, and I could see him even, taking some punt returns. You never know with what NFL coaches view players and their vision. You know what I mean? So I think, like I said, at number 4 with the Patriots, at where the past 3 players are going, I think Travis Hunter is your best talent for this draft there. So I think you should take him.
Yeah. Pick 5. This one to me was a no-brainer for Jacksonville.
Yeah, another no-brainer.
This is, if you want to make the argument for the best player in the draft, I'm not going to hold it against you. Jacksonville at number 5, taking Mason Graham for the D line. 3.5 sacks doesn't look the coolest, but he's also a DT. And if you go and watch what he was doing at Michigan, this is a rare occasion that you're going to find a defensive lineman quite to this level. And Jacksonville desperately needs help on the D-line.
Right.
I think this would be a great fit. I don't think your offense is terrible. You've just had some unfortunate circumstances last year.
Yep. And I think at this point, with, like you said, you had a future, wide receiver 1 and Brian Thomas Jr., you have Trevor Lawrence, who I still believe is a franchise quarterback.
Yep.
He's just been unfortunate with the coaching circumstances he's had. So I think with Mason Graham going here, it gets that defensive
starts to solidify.
Right.
Both
it makes
sides,
because they
one.
did waste the number 1 pick in the draft, I think, on Trayvon Walker, right? And on that defensive line.
Yeah, I would say lately he's coming on. He's not Aiden Hutchinson by any means, but I think he's put together 2 back-to-back seasons of double sacks.
Okay.
So you're starting to get that value out of him.
Nice.
This would be another player that would play along really well with him.
Right, and if you
can really start to solidify that front 8.
Right, and if you have Mason Graham on the other side of the defensive line, you're not going to attract as much attention. It's the same thing. It's it's the whatever the vision of those defensive coordinators have for those players, because you could even move Mason Graham. He's a talented player to play at defensive end even. So another versatile player there, and I think that's a great pick at 5. At number 6, we have the Raiders. Here they have a lot of needs, but I think I mentioned it earlier. I think this is one of the teams that address quarterback in the free agency. They could make a possible trade up. You never know with Tom Brady and all that management up there. They could have their guy up there. But I think I have them taking McMillan from Arizona. I think he is a nasty wide receiver that people are not looking at very well.
I think he's undervalued because he went to Arizona.
Right,
which
and
I think is wrong.
Yeah, and you look at this guy and you're like, yeah. He's going to be something.
Yeah.
And when I'm looking at him, he has a very good ability to point the high ball, to get his hands up in the right position, and to just get separation as in that big of a body frame is crazy to me. So I feel like with the Raiders if they can address the quarterback position in free agency, I feel like this pick will be a very good wide receiver with Jacoby Myers to pair up with for that rookie for that free agency quarterback in a new offensive system there. But
number 7.
Number 7 it is.
Jets. You would love a quarterback here, and there is none.
Jets.
There's no quarterback. You got rid of Aaron Rodgers. You're going to have to address that in free agency for how this mock draft's playing out. I went with a kind of raw talent that's slowly starting to skyrocket up boards. I guess I shouldn't say slowly. He is skyrocketing up boards. I went with Jalen Walker, the edge from Georgia. This guy's he's a freak. The more I watched film on him, I was trying to figure out who is Jalen Walker. Why am I seeing him all of a sudden so high on mock drafts that I go and study and I go and watch the film and I'm like, he's got all the pieces there.
Yeah, he's Abdul Carter. Truly, he really is.
This is, I mean, there's nothing more to say. This guy, he's got the pieces. There's just at some points where they don't always line up together every single time.
Mm-hmm.
But when they do, and you're seeing that glimpse of what he can be, this guy could be the next big thing for the NFL.
Right.
Not just his team, but the NFL. This
Right.
guy has mad talent. Like we said, get the coaching around him. I think the Jets defense is a perfect spot for him to be. Obviously, they're doing the right things over there in the defense. Their offense is what's been lackluster, but you already have a great defense there. So plugging him into that system should be no problem at all, getting him to learn behind these vets, and he could really excel in the upcoming years.
Right, and I do think, now that I'm thinking about it, if McMillan falls to 7, I do think the Jets take McMillan.
Because you're probably going to see Devontae Adams head out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I imagine.
I think he's the last year of his contract. He restructured his contract to like 1 year. But at number 8, we have the Panthers. I got them taking Will Campbell, who I think is probably the best offensive tackle we've seen in the past. I'd say since Penei Sewell, almost.
Yeah, he's up there.
Because
I think if he comes out as a tackle, that's what we're planning right now.
And I think even with his arm length, I know it's everything but arm length.
I say let him try it.
Yeah,
he's too good.
Dude, he's nasty.
He's too good to not at least try
and,
it.
You know, and the thing is with him is he's played all of these guys that we've even mentioned besides Abdul Carter. We're going to mention a lot of SEC edge rushers in this draft.
Yep.
He's played them all. And he's put up stats again. He doesn't let him get to the quarterback.
Yeah.
They didn't have a good team. Well, it didn't matter because it wasn't coming from the right side of the defense. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And usually, like, when your team's bad and you're still standing out, and you're not a quarterback, that has a lot of very good money signs right there.
Right.
He's easily the best tackle. You're going to see tackles go shortly after him, especially in our mock draft, but between him and the rest of the tackles,
there's a pretty big skill gap.
I would say maybe Calvin Banks is like a day 1, but then after that, I would say day 2 tackles, truthfully. I mean, a lot go, but talent-wise.
But you really think about it, that I think a lot of teams are starting to realize that it's built through the trenches. If you really want if it's a quarterback-driven league, we got to get it to where we can protect that quarterback.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I think you're going to see a lot of offensive tackles go in this first round no matter what, because there's talent there, but there's only a certain thing that they need to work on. So it's with the good coaching, with a good offensive line coach, you'll see some really good tackles go in this draft. But Will Campbell at 8. Could go higher, could go lower. I believe he might go higher on this.
Yeah.
But I think at number 8, if the Panthers could get him to protect Bryce Young, they'd be pretty happy.
Definitely a top 10 pick. Number 9, the Saints. If this player falls, I'm going to go ahead and claim. Last year we claimed Jared Verse. If this guy falls to number 9, this might be the steal of the draft. Will Johnson, cornerback, Michigan. This guy is the next big thing. Travis Hunter's obviously there, and it's cool because he can do both, and he's top 3 in college at both.
Right.
So that's what makes him special. Will Johnson is the best corner in college football right now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
He was
go
the
ahead
best
and say
corner
that now.
last year.
Yeah, I mean this is like your Jalen Ramsey. This is your Christian Gonzalez. This is your top guy. And for the Saints, I consider maybe line. You would consider maybe receiver here, because there's contracts ending.
Quarterback.
Olave can't stay healthy. Consider quarterback. And ultimately, I just went with the best player available, and to me, that was Will Johnson by far.
Yeah.
So if you have the chance to get the best player, why not go ahead and grab it? You can always use a position, even if you're overflowing at it. He's not going to be a guy that just disappears. So this was a pretty obvious pick for me for the Saints, and I think the Saints would be very happy with that pick for a long time to come.
Especially Will Johnson. At number 10, I got the Bears. I think we all know what the Bears need to do, depending on free agency, obviously. Kelvin Banks Jr. is who I got here going at 10. Do I think it's a reach? Absolutely.
Yeah,
I think
you got to do something.
Do I think that the Bears might reach and take an inside offensive lineman when Tyler Booker? I do.
Yeah.
There's a couple things. If it just depends on if we can sign offensive linemen in the free agency.
But it better be offensive line. At this pick.
And but if not, we'll go with defensive line. But we could talk about that later. I got Kelvin Banks Jr. going at number 10. Caleb Williams died last year. He's, like you said, a day one talent. I would lower him down to the 20s, maybe the 15s range.
Yep.
But Bears need to tackle. They get their tackle here at 10.
Yep. And now you're going to see a trend here. We were talking about the offensive tackles and how they're very much needed. Maybe not the value is good, but you got to take them. For the 49ers, I went with Josh Simons from Ohio State. And at first glance, you're like, they don't need a tackle. They have quite possibly the best tackle in the league. And you'd be right. You got Trent Williams, but he's 37 years old. And he's not getting any younger.
I think he's a free agent, isn't he?
Yeah, so why not, if you can re-sign him, why not use this time to have him teach?
Right, because he's the same size. I think Josh Simons is the one that's super tall, right?
Yeah, so Raw, not a bad player at all, but giving him time to sit and learn, I think would be really good for him. And then when Trent Williams retires or leaves, you can plug him right in.
Right.
And you just keep building that offensive line. That's definitely one thing you cannot have enough of in this league is offensive linemen. So why not continue to try to build it up and take a chance on a player like him?
Right, and I think like I'd said earlier, building the trenches is very important in this game. So having an offensive tackle, especially with a little bit of raw talent already, size way oversized, height wise, pretty good for the 49ers. I got the Cowboys. I think everybody kind of sees this coming.
This is our bread and butter. Right?
Yeah, I mean Ashton Jonty. Don't really gotta say much about him. He was astronomical. He should have won the Heisman, in my opinion.
Yep.
He broke a lot of records. He made Boise State even relevant again. So I believe the Cowboys are built. They lost Zach Martin. They're going to go ahead and draft probably offensive line in the second, third round. I think they get their running back and a very good running back at number 10 or number 12.
It's definitely a position that you need. When they had running backs that were good, you saw that offense and that team as a whole excel.
Right.
Last year they didn't have it, and it was just a...
Yep. And the thing is you're already built for a running back 2.
Yeah.
We got Rico Dowdle at running back 2. You can even go with wide receiver in the second round and then address your inside offensive line in the third round, to help CeeDee Lamb. So it just depends on what the Cowboys do. I think they will definitely, if Ashton Johnson's there at 12, they are going to take Ashton. And there's no ifs and buts about it. I think Jerry Jones has already made that pretty clear that they are looking for a playmaker. So let's move on to number 13 and the Dolphins.
Yeah, might be a little early in some people's eyes. Dolphins, I have taking Malachi Starks, safety from Georgia. I can't think of what his name is, their current safety, but I know he's hitting free agency. I think it's something Howard. I want to say Holland. Javon Holland. He's hitting free agency, so there's a chance you could re-sign him. And even if you do, who's the other safety? Nobody knows but Dolphins fans. So why not get a high-end talented safety in Malachi Starks? We have seen safeties go this high before. We've seen Kyle Hamilton go, I think, 3. Pick 3. It might have been way later. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was like 14.
I know he went in the first round.
Yeah, he was.
I could be way off.
He was 14 years back. It was the Ravens at 14, I think.
But so you have seen safeties go in the first round. I think he's a great player. I think he would fit right in. And again, if you can't re-sign Javon Holland, then there you have your replacement again.
And I think at the same time, if he doesn't go here, he goes in the very next pick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
I think, going into the number 14 with the Colts, they're very well looking for safety, and Malachi Starks.
Yeah.
Definitely one of the guys on their agenda and on their draft board if he falls to him. But for the Colts, I have another pick that's probably their 1B pick, and it's Tyler Warren from Penn State, tight end. He's
nasty.
He's nasty. He's one of those underdog players that I believe when I watched him play Notre Dame the other day or the other month, I was like, yeah, I see why he's going to be a round one talent. He knows how to read zones. He knows how to come to the ball. He's just a very quarterback-friendly tight end, and that's what you need for a quarterback that needs to prove that he's a quarterback. You know what I mean? So
I think their quarterback's running out of time to prove himself, because throwing 10 times a game is not going to win. It's not going to win games.
And you got to get some weapons. You do have Michael Pittman Jr. and Josh Downs, but I do believe having a big target that knows how to read zones, that knows how to help your quarterback out, that needs help.
Yep.
It's going to be
net.
Yep, it's going to be very good for the Colts and for their offense.
Yeah. 15 Falcons. Some people might say this guy's better than Jalen Walker. I wouldn't be opposed to disagree. I picked his teammate, Michael Williams, linebacker from Georgia. And if you're a Falcons fan, you've known this the longest out of anybody. I think you've needed this position the longest out of anybody. You got to get linebacker help. You got to get edge help. I'm tired of looking at it. You thought that Matt Judon would come in and help, and he hasn't been terrible, but at the same time, he's ancient dust. You got to get young talent and finally just be done with that position. There's holes still defensively that the Falcons need so badly. You have your offense settled finally, I think, for the most part.
Right.
Now it's time to give A.J. Terrell what he's deserved his entire tenure with the Falcons, and that's a decent defense.
Yeah.
So to me, you look at their positions of need. Linebacker's been there, I think, since I've been born. Address it and get it done with.
Yep. I like that pick, and I do believe that I think I saw on Mel Kiper's draft that he was going.
Yeah.
Like top 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see the draft combine to see where these players stack up. But moving on to 16, I got the Cardinals taking Tyler Booker. I do believe at the same time even Tyler Booker could go a little lower in this draft. But I do think that, Kyler Murray needs to stop running for his life. You get Marvin Harrison Jr., you got Trey McBride. You're not going to be able to get those guys the ball if you don't have enough time to get the ball. And he's getting older. He's only getting slower. I think if you can protect Kyler Murray in that offense, I think they'll have a very good chance of doing something.
Yeah,
and their defense has kind of already proven that they don't need, a much more help, but maybe a corner or two in the second or third round.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think getting Kyler some help, letting Kyler know that you're trying to protect him. He is your franchise quarterback for the next 3 years. I think you extended him last year or the year before. So, I think that's a good pick. I do think the Bears could take him at 10. Like I said, very O-line heavy draft. A lot of teams need it. But, Tyler Booker at 16, good pick for the Cardinals.
Bengals, big weighing possibility of losing T. Higgins this year. You lost Tyler Boyd last year, 2 years ago, somewhere around there.
To who? I don't even know.
Tennessee, I believe. Yeah, I must have got a bag, I guess. I don't know. But anyways, you're going to replace those receivers. You're going to get Luther Burden. You have Jamar Chase. You don't need 2 wide receiver ones. You need a wide receiver 1 alpha, Jamar Chase. And Luther Burden has that speed. I think he can definitely come in, play as a wide receiver 2, a wide receiver 3. He's going to give you that help you need. You need to strengthen your wide receivers right now. They're getting dry, and the players you're putting back in aren't the greatest of players. So why not get a young talent, put pair him with Jamar Chase. He's going to get a lot of lessons learned because Jamar's going to be doubled, tripled, quadrupled.
Right.
And he's quick. He's going to get open for you. So give Joe Burrow another target to help out, keep solidifying that offense, keep Joe Burrow healthy, getting that ball out quick, and I think this Bengals team will get right back on track.
Yeah. At 18 here, Seahawks, I got them taking another offensive tackle who I think is another one that, is underrated here. He's played some pretty good ball. Armand Membo, offensive tackle from Missouri. I do believe the Seahawks are going to take a quarterback at some point in this draft. I think they realize that Geno Smith is kind of getting old. Geno Smith is very injury prone. We need someone that we can depend on. And they saw that Sam Howell, Washington got rid of Sam Howell for a reason. He's no good. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think they take Jackson Dart or something in the later rounds to go behind Geno Smith, but I think you got to protect Geno Smith from getting injured, so you take Armand here, who is a raw talent, can protect your quarterback at either left tackle or right tackle, and help Geno out, hit DK a little more because they might trade him because they can't hit him.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's too many times that pocket's collapsing too quick and the receivers get open, but Geno isn't able to deliver the ball to them because he doesn't have time.
Yeah, it's a domino effect.
It's too collapsed, you can't see him. When the line did protect, you saw early on in the season DK was getting insane deep balls because Geno had time. So definitely trying to solidify that offensive line for the Seahawks. Buccaneers, I looked at them. They're not a bad team. They're missing a couple pieces. I don't think it's on their offense. You addressed it last year. You got offensive line. I think we both had that going, and it was a really great pick for them. Looking at the defense, the secondary to me seemed to have stood out the most, and I think that Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame would be a great fit into the secondary. You have some great players that are there in the secondary, I believe, from the Super Bowl. So the good veteran players, put some young guns in there and teach them the ropes, help them improve. And I think this is a team that, if everything pans out, I think this could be a team of a threat to the NFC. I think they're still underrated. I don't think people give the Bucs much recognition. But they're a good team playing good football. So
yeah, they made the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, fit in a couple more pieces. I think you're a couple more pieces from a big contention, and I think that starts with your secondary.
Yep, I agree with that. The Bucs are one of the teams that I personally am starting to gain attraction to, just because no one seems to be talking about them, and they don't get any mention. And Baker Mayfield's playing the best ball of his life.
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't watch football or keep up daily, and you just kind of watch social media, you would have had no idea the Buccaneers are in the playoffs.
Right.
They never got talked about.
Yep. But moving on to the Bombos, the Broncos, another dark horse team. Yep. They did very well this season. I think they exceeded a lot of expectations. I had them actually top 5 worst teams in the league before this season. So definitely a very good team. Pick 20, so that speaks for itself. You saw your offense. You protected Bo Nix very well. You got one wide receiver.
Yep.
You need a wide receiver, and I think this guy, Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State, wide receiver. He's I would say, a college veteran. He's a route runner. He knows how to get open. He knows how to attack a deep ball. He's fast. But the only thing that worries me is with his injuries. I think last year he stepped out of the draft because of his injuries. So if he could stay healthy, I do believe that he's going to definitely be a very good slot wide receiver, or a wide receiver too, for Cortland Sutton. He could learn a lot of things from him, although he's not a high point wide receiver.
Yep.
But the Broncos getting a playmaker around Bo Nix is, I think, the best move they can do in the first round. And here they get Egbuka from Ohio State.
Yeah. Okay, pick 21. Steelers fans, don't kill me. Um, I wanted this pick to be wide receiver really bad. When we were doing this, I was about to type in Emeka, but he went at pick 21, which is the worst case scenario for Steelers fans because I think after him, wide receivers really fall off. So I went and looked at what else do they need. They have Joey Porter Jr. I think is a great player. Why not give him some help? Which is why I went with Siobhan. I don't know if it's Ravel. Sorry if I butcher the names. From East Carolina. Again, the stats aren't going to jump off the board to you. 4 solo tackles. He had 2 interceptions and 2 pass deflections. Go watch film. When we talk about players, if you don't know who they are or why we pick them and you think they're a nobody, just go on YouTube and type in some highlights and watch some
just
players.
type their name in.
This guy can play. You're not asking him to step in and be the corner number 1 like Joey Porter. He can be that corner too, and the reason I picked him in the spot is because I think he could excel at guarding the wide receiver number 2.
Yep.
So that would be a great piece. Keep solidifying what you stand on, which is your defense. It stinks that you can't get a wide receiver. Obviously, that would be your number 1 need, and if there was a receiver I thought was worth the 21 pick after Emeka, he would be here for sure. I mean, that is your highlighted number 1 concern.
Yep.
But it's just not there in our mock draft. So that is why I went with corner.
Yep, I think it's probably their number 1 need besides because you think of after Joey Porter Jr., the rest are nobodies.
Yeah.
So they definitely, I think at one point they had Patrick Peterson in that thing. So moving on to the Chargers at 22. Tough team, run heavy. You bring in a down and dirty tight end and Colston Loveland, and you might be able to extend that offense. Now, do I believe that they need to address their defense more? Absolutely. But this tight end, I do believe, probably is more talented, raw-wise blocking than we've seen in a pretty long time. Jim Harbaugh is going to get his guy, and then Loveland here from Michigan. I do believe he brings that George Kittle blocking aspect he could really change the game for the running game that they so believe in.
Yep.
So getting another weapon, kind of another blocker for the run game in Colston Loveland, which I do believe they could go defensive here as well, and probably the next pick that you're about to mention.
Yeah, these next 2 picks, honestly, are starting, after watching film, are starting to become some of my favorite players in the draft, and I could see them rising up the board very quickly. With the Packers, I have Jihad Campbell from Alabama, linebacker. This guy's a beast.
He's a beast.
This guy's a beast. 55 solo tackles, 5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 1 interception. What can't this guy do? He's from Alabama. We love Alabama. I mean, they're known for everything but their quarterbacks for the most part. He's such a good player, and the Packers' defense has the potential to be so good in that front 8. And I think he would just come in and really take the Packers' defense up to the next level. And this is a team that we've seen be able to contend in the NFC, and I think he would really help them excelling, especially with how good that division is now.
Yeah.
You need big-time players, and I think this could be a big-time player for them.
100%. I think Jihad Campbell could even go higher in the draft once we get to the draft combine, and just as well as this player who, kind of just peaked at the Senior Bowl.
Yep.
I have at number 24 the Vikings taking Mike Green, who I think is probably going to be maybe even a top 15 pick once people start seeing how athletic this guy is at defensive end. This guy's nasty. This guy gets down and dirty. He is one of those guys that he's playing at the same conference. He's playing in the same conference with nobodies, but at the same time, he's putting up absolute numbers with 17 sacks, and that I think that actually broke the record actually.
Yeah.
So if the Vikings could get him here, I think they'd be stoked.
Yeah.
So at the same time, now that I'm looking about it, there's a couple other teams that could probably use Mike Green here.
Yeah. And
this is our number 1, or this is 1.0, so we could go, like I said, different ways, 2.0. But Vikings at 24 get Mike Green from Marshall. Good pick for them.
And I think Dallas Turner didn't turn out exactly how they wanted.
No.
And I think this is a player that,
You just start him.
yeah, this is kind of like our Jared Verse last year, how we have him down in the 20s, and this guy should have been picked in the top 10.
Yep.
And we're all sitting here scratching our heads. Texans, C.J. Stroud took 52 sacks. You are at pick 25. It doesn't look very appealing, but you're going to go ahead and do it anyways. Josh Corley Jr., offensive tackle from Oregon. You have got to protect C.J. Stroud. This is a playoff team. I understand wide receiver injuries happened last year. That really definitely impacted. But C.J. Stroud cannot be taking 52 sacks. That is a franchise quarterback who looked very mediocre last year, mainly because he spent most of his time laying on the ground.
Right.
Got to get protection. It's not a bad player. I mean, you're desperate, so you're reaching, but offensive tackle, you got to have it. You can play him at right. You can probably switch someone to left and start him at right. Just get some protection for the guy.
Right. I believe that they need to go somewhere on the offensive line.
Yeah.
Because it don't matter where, but somewhere, because
Yeah.
he cannot be doing that.
No.
52 sacks is crazy. Number 26, the Rams. The Rams are going to get paired with Jared Verse, another edge rusher who, they're towards the beginning of the year here in the draft, or before the draft. They had James Pierce Jr. going, like top 15, top 10?
I was just say top 10, top 5.
Yeah. But with some locker room issues, with some off the field issues, he finds himself here at 24, or not 24, 26, sorry. And but I do believe, he's one of those Jalen Carter type of guys. His talent speaks for himself. Just a little bit of issues off the field.
You can fix that.
Yep, you could always fix that. Rams getting them at 26 is, they're stoked about that. So
Yeah, and that line would be. Imagine if they still had Aaron Donald. My goodness. Ravens. Again, this is somebody that I would like to go wide receiver. That's the first thing that comes to my mind instantly. Wide receiver. You got Zay Flowers. I don't think your other wide receivers are that great. Mark Andrews is all right still, so you got some time.
poor Mark Andrews.
Yeah, he choked, so it's fine. But I got kind of a silly idea, if you want to call it that. I went with Nick Amanwari from South Carolina, who is a safety, and the first thing that Ravens fans are going to think is, we have Kyle Hamilton. And I know, but who else? Crickets. Continue to build. Continue to excel. Your defense is great. Your offense is very strong. Why not try to balance them? Get more secondary. I think you have a pretty good secondary already. I really did think about corner here. Marlon Humphrey is getting older.
Yep.
So corner was a thought, but
They did draft Nate Wiggins last year.
Nate
too.
Wiggins is coming on. Marlon Humphrey's getting ready to come out, but why not get a young, solidified core?
Right.
Then
and
you'll have Hamilton, you'll have Wiggins,
Yeah.
and you'll have him, and you'll have 3 young, solid players.
At the
for your
same time, you could
secondary.
always move in the corner too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I think I've heard his name
Yeah.
a couple times in this draft. Hard hitter.
Oh, yeah.
Seeing it here. I mean, what?
57.
57 tackles as a safety. Kaboom.
4 interceptions.
That's Kyle Hamilton levels right there. So, having the ability to have those two on the same field on the same team is
Yeah.
going to be a legion of boom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
moving on to 28, the Lions picking another corner. I think they realize that they need more than just Teron Arnold. He did struggle to get on the field last year, had a couple injuries. I think they extended one of their corners. He's a veteran. He's older. I think it was somebody from the Bucks Super Bowl team corners, Carlton Davis or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember. But I think right here you go, best talent there, no matter what. I think Maxwell Hairston, cornerback from Kentucky, he played a lot has seen a lot, but at the same time, he's kind of that raw talent corner that has that high draft talent, but then he has that low draft talent, I would say fundamentals. I mean, he has some small things he needs to fix. He's pretty weak in zone coverage, but at the same time, his man coverage kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah, and I mean, when we're talking raw talent, we're talking about players that have all the pieces and maybe just don't know how to quite apply them yet.
Right.
And that's why it's not necessarily bad to take a chance, especially if you're the Lions and how good of a team you have, to take a chance on a raw player, because then you get to develop them exactly how you want them.
Yep.
So you definitely need corner help, and him and Brian Branch could be a pretty fun duo to watch.
Yep.
Pick 29, Commanders. I think this player is going to go higher, but this is just kind of where he fell from the board and the needs. I think he could go at pick 15 if I'm being honest. Shamar Stewart, defensive end from Texas A&M. He's a good player.
His teammates right behind him too.
Yeah, and it's, again, we're talking about things. When you look at position of needs, a lot of these teams don't need a defensive end, right? So in that sense, he falls when he might be valued higher on our boards and such. But like I said, I could see him going to the Falcons. I think they need that outside linebacker D-end, and he's a great player, plays his role really well, and Texas A&M is definitely building something up there on their D-line.
Yeah. Because right after him, I mean, we got the Bills, and I got them taking defensive end Nick Scorton, who at the same time, I think he could go even top 20.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, his stats kind of speak for himself. 5 sacks, 27 solo tackles as a defensive end. He knows how to pursue the ball. He's quick. He can get down the line to go get that running back on a toss on the other side of the field. You know what I mean? So, having a speed rusher like that with the Bills, Von Miller getting super old, I think you got to, go with the younger talent, maybe even cut those ties with Von Miller to try to get a wide receiver in the free agency to help something on your offense. Yeah. I think the Bills going with Nick Scorton. I think that they need to drop Von Miller. He's bad. He's wasting a lot of money on their contract. So the Bills that taking any defensive end, I think, is a necessity.
Yeah. Chiefs. I went with Walter Nolan, defensive tackle from Ole Miss.
He's a beast too.
Yeah. A thing you got to understand is when you're down this far in the draft, sometimes it's okay to take best player available. And another thing you got to understand for maybe football fans that aren't fully aware of what all happens during football, Chris Jones doesn't play every single snap. Yeah. It might come as a shocker. Even the best, Aaron Donald, never played every snap. You got to have that person that can come in. They're constantly subbing out, right? You saw that with Jalen Carter and the Eagles a lot until he finally took on the role from Fletcher Cox. But Walter Nolan's a beast. And whether you got to face Chris Jones or you got to face Walter Nolan, either way, your day's going to be in a rough one.
Oh, yeah.
So I think he would be a great and honestly a perfect complement for Chris Jones. And obviously, Chris Jones is starting to get older and older.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to fit right in. Once Chris Jones goes out, he's instantly DT1. If you go to a 4-3, I can't remember if they run a 3-4 or a 4-3. You run a 4-3, even better, because now you got both of them out there at the same time.
Yeah.
And this is just a monstrous inside. You're not running HB dives. You're not running anything
that
inside.
Run game's dead.
No.
Yeah. At the same time, I do think we got to watch with the Chiefs on where Trey Smith goes. It does seem like he's going to be going out to free agency to test the waters. If they lose Trey Smith, I don't know who they have
could be
depth-wise. It
might
could
try to take it in free agency.
Yep,
too.
They could take it into free agency, but we could see if Tyler Booker falls down this. I mean, they would be awesome to have Tyler Booker in their mind.
I just don't see it.
No. But with those inside offensive linemen, dude, they don't value those guys after this.
That's why we say if we're addressing Will Campbell as a tackle, because if he's a guard, I don't think he goes in the top. He might go at 10.
He'll go 10
to the Bears.
Yep.
But I don't see him going in the first 9.
Yeah, 100%. Number 32, the last pick of the draft, the Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles. They got Josh Sweat taken his talents to free agency, which is
Yep.
perfectly fine. You look at this draft, you're like, wow, this is a perfect time to get another defensive end to
Yeah.
replace Josh Sweat.
Yeah.
I go with a guy that has a lot of heart for football. He's got, we saw it in the college football playoffs. Jack Sawyer from Ohio State. He's got 25 solo tackles. He's got 9 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. So he's going to fit in right in with that Eagle defense, especially the defensive line that's just been monstrous.
Young, monstrous line.
Monstrous defensive line. So I think having Jack Sawyer at 32, I mean, there's a lot of defensive ends that could be falling down. I do believe if any of these guys above Jack Sawyer falls down to the Eagles, they're going to take that guy as well.
For sure.
I think Jack Sawyer is definitely a second-round talent, but I do believe he could fall to 32 and maybe the 25 area.
Yep.
But that is the Havoc 1.0 mock draft. We want to hear your guys' opinion first on this.
Even if you hate it.
Yep. If you
Tell
guys
us.
hate a couple picks, if you guys think that we're outlandish for even picking at that position for these teams, let us know, because like I said and Colton said, we're still studying these players. We're still trying to figure out where teams are going, what teams are going to do with the players they have on their roster right now.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't even gone through free agency yet.
Right.
And we're not trying to sit here and be like, for instance, Patriots. I'm not going to, granted, we did pass on receiver slightly. We took mainly corner, but we can't just be like, oh, yeah, in this perfect scenario, they have T. Higgins.
Yeah.
We don't know yet.
We don't know.
After free agency, we'll have even more information, and the draft's going to change, and a lot of things are going to change. Combines to come up.
Order might even change here before too long, that we only really have, 2 months? I think it's April 14th or April 17th or something like that is when the draft starts, so we really only have 2 months before the draft starts.
Yep.
The draft combine's coming up here at the end of February. You got free agency starting, I think, March 10th.
Yeah, March. Early
So
March.
it's going to be a busy season for us, but like I said, we appreciate all the support.
Yep.
Let us know your guys' feedback, and we'll see you guys next episode.
See you.